Shabbat Shalom. Tomorrow is Veterans Day, November 11th. Veterans Day was established to recognize soldiers who were honorably discharged and came home to live in the nation that they had protected. During my lifetime, during our lifetime, we have seen this parade of soldiers returning from battle far too often. I was born in 1945 as the Second World War was ending. In my home and in the Jewish community, our focus was on the unimaginable stories of the Holocaust, of course hidden from me as a child, and the unbelievable birth of the State of Israel. We joined with our fellow citizens and welcomed our World War II heroes home. At the same time, the Jewish people wept as we focused on the death of 6 million of our family, and these tears continue to fall. Tonight we recall the 85th anniversary, as was mentioned, of Kristallnacht. Out of my earliest life experience, born just at the time when the Second World War was ending, 3 years old when the State of Israel was established, my framework for understanding and viewing Jewish survival and the defense of democratic values central to America was shaped. Even a cursory reading of Jewish history did not allow me to escape the fact that nowhere in the world had the Jewish people found enduring safety and security from the Romans' conquest of Jerusalem, the Inquisition, expulsion, pogroms, and the Holocaust. Our history was filled with often tragic moments. We were welcomed when it served the greater population. We were deported, tortured, or murdered when there arose a Pharaoh who knew not Joseph. The amazing history of our people, the Jewish people, is not simply that we have survived, but that over the centuries we have contributed greatly to every society, every country in which we lived. I grew up believing that America was an experiment. The land of the free and the home of the brave took constant encouragement, nurturing, and yes, love. I grew up believing that Israel was a necessity. From my parents, grandparents, teachers, I was reminded that we must never forget. A student of history, I understood that we live in a world where tyrants and dictators are frequently found in positions of leadership. The actors change, but as we are now seeing, nations fall prey to charismatic leaders whose focus is personal power and often expansion of the size of the land on which they are living, taking others' land while not taking care of their own people. Survival is only possible if our armed forces are the strongest and supported by its citizens. Veterans Day reminds us that we must take care of our soldiers, both when they are in service and when they come home to live among us again. I, and looking at the congregation, many of us grew up at a time where mutual assured destruction, MAD, was the currency of the day. Your nuclear arms against my nuclear arms gave us a sense of security. Can you imagine? We were secure because we believed that no one would incinerate our country because we could do exactly the same to theirs. My public school, and I'm sure some of you remember, as a child, I had practiced getting under my desk in order to find protection from breaking glass. No one spoke to children about protection from nuclear radiation. As years passed, there were moments when it felt as if our world was actually changing. We watched the Berlin Wall come down with the hope that ending the Cold War would lead to fewer battles and perhaps less bloodshed. There were political debates between isolationists and those who favored engagement with the world. And these debates continue today. But no matter the political position, we had our soldiers ready to defend our country and our nation, our allies. We had learned what happens when demagogues and tyrants are empowered. They respect only the strength of their adversaries. The same values that guided America were visible in the modern state of Israel, a state defended by an armed force whose first victory in 1948 was not easily predictable. We had returned home. We had returned to our homeland. We had returned to our ancient homeland, and we would grow strong together and build a nation. We were blessed to see the creation of this tiny country when viewed in the context of the physical size of other nations in the world. But it was a country where Jews would be welcomed from any place in our world if perhaps their lives were threatened. Just before my birth, American soldiers had fought, they had sacrificed, and many died. We were not naive. There followed many wars: Korea, Vietnam, the Middle East, Afghanistan, and too many other conflicts around the world to list. On this Shabbat of Veterans Day, we thank those who served and were blessed to come home. As Jews, we come to our sanctuary on this Shabbat. Our hearts are filled with pain, anxiety, and determination. We praise those in positions of leadership who understand that in our world today there is a common enemy. The despicable acts of Hamas, the threats of Hezbollah, the Ayatollahs in Iran are bound together by a common thread: the death of Jews and the destruction of Israel, the defeat of freedom and democracy that are the foundation of the country in which we live today. Many of us will have the opportunity to be in Washington this coming Tuesday. We will be there and look at the chairs, the numbers, demanding the release of hostages. 3 planes, now over 900 people, will be leaving from Detroit. We have come together as a community, as I'm sure all of you recognize we would come together. And many others will be traveling on their own so that they might stand together with Jews and non-Jews alike who recognize that a voice might be heard, must be heard, because the message is not too difficult to understand. Our children, our family must be safely returned home by the terrorists who brought the thunder of war down on their own family. Israel will fight to survive, and we pray that we will see our family returned home in peace. Many lives will be lost, and we suffer for the innocents on all sides of a battle. But remember, it was the terrorists who brought down the thunder of war on their own family. The song of service our cantors will sing now is a blessing for all of those who serve our country to protect our freedom. On this night, we extend this prayer to those who protect our ancient homeland. Shabbat Shalom.